So in this video, I'm going to be telling you about a concept that I learned in a book that helped me see problems that I face in life in a completely different way. And this concept, it almost helped me kind of just be unfazed with problems, personal problems that would have in my life, troubles, any sort of troubles that would happen in my life. By the way, if you hear a bunch of loud noises or like loud sounds going on, it's currently 4th of July in the US, so there's fireworks going on. But going back to this concept, right? So I learned this concept in a book that just helped me become completely unfazed by problems. Like, for example, when a problem happens in my life now, I don't get upset about it. And this was super important for me because back when I was younger, when I was like in middle school and high school and everything, every time I had a problem in my life, for example, if something didn't go to plan or if something completely, was just out of hand, I would always get super upset, and this was a huge problem. I remember this one time, you know, I was trying to play sports. I was in music the whole time, and I was basically some fireworks going on. I'm just gonna leave it in there. But I was a guy who was always out of shape, and because of this, I experienced lots of problems with bullying. People, just saying a bunch of stuff to me that really put my self-esteem down, and I eventually wanted to improve my life, and I saw that sports were the way to go. Sports, people who did athletics, they were fit, they talked to lots of people. There's lots of connections and teamworks in sports. So I'm like, okay, I need to do sports. And so I remember this one time I was trying to get into sports, and I was talking to my parents. I'm like, hey, I would really like to do sports, but here's the thing: when I was convincing my parents, they were just like, "Oh no, like, it's very bad. You're gonna get hurt. It's not good for you, and you're not gonna get into sports. We're not gonna let you get into sports." And because of this, I was super upset, and this was a huge problem in my life. So I was just super upset. I was basically really over emotional. I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, why do my parents have to be like this? Why does my life have to be so bad? Why am I bullied?" And then every single time that I would face a problem, it would be like this, right? But this concept that I'm going to tell you right now, it's completely helped me become unfazed by any problem. When problems happen in my life, I just see it. This concept helps me basically see it in a way. And this concept that I learned is from this book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I don't want to say the word because I don't want this video to get taken down on YouTube, of course. But basically, the very first concept of this book is that problems never go away. Nobody can live a problem free life. Problems are either exchanged or upgraded with more problems. And I'm going to tell you an example of this on how really you should not be unfazed. You should be unfazed with problems. And the next time you see a problem, something happens in your life, realize that no matter what would have happened, despite it going from a negative outcome to a positive outcome, there is going to be some problem. And I'm going to give you an example of this right now. So when I read this concept, it made a bunch of sense to me because one of the very personal problems that I've had within my entire life was my family. So I'm someone that comes from a small family, and there's just me, my brother, my mother, my father, and then my godmother. So technically, we're a family of five. But compared to all the friends that I know, everybody in school, this is a really small family because all of my friends, they would talk about meeting their cousins, going to family vacations, going to other countries, other states, and celebrating their holidays with their huge family. I would be in school, and my friends would tell me on their huge vacations on how they have spent their holiday vacation with a bunch of cousins, sisters, their whole family, when it's just me and my family. We're just a family of five. So I've always envied people that have lots of family. Because me personally, I've always wanted to, go to huge family events, talk to my cousins, be with a bunch of people. But I've never experienced this whatsoever. I've just experienced holidays with my intermediate family. Let me try to adjust my camera angle very quick. There we go. Hopefully the camera angle is not weird. Let's see. There we go. Oops. Hopefully that's not too weird. But anyways, this thing keeps messing up, man. Apologies. But anyways, um, so I never experienced this whatsoever. But once I learned the concept of this book, I realized that if I were to have a bigger family, I would have had to deal with more family problems. I would have had to deal with the money to celebrate with his family. I would have had to talk to more people, which is more time dedicated into traveling, talking to more people. And I know this is a fact because I recently met someone who told me that she has a big family and she does not like it whatsoever because she has to deal with lots of family drama. You know, her brother's currently getting married to a fiance, and the fiance and her family do not like each other. And when this happened, I realized this is basically the concept of the book, that problems are either exchanged or upgraded. So if I wanted a bigger family, right, I would have experienced the problems of having a bigger family, just like this friend is. Another example that I can think about is money, fame, and power. I'm someone who's personally, I've always wanted to be famous. I've always wanted to have some sort of audience, which is why I'm coming on YouTube. And sorry, man, this camera's absolutely, the sun keeps changing and the lighting is just absolutely terrible. Hopefully, I don't look too dark in this video. But, anyways, maybe I can, nah, that's whatever. But something that I've always wanted was basically to, work whenever I want, take a vacation whenever I want, and just, experience what it's like to be financially free, right? And this is something that I've always wanted. And I remember when I was there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to think about how I'm going to get to this point, be financially free. And then I started doing a bunch of research and watching celebrity interviews. And in these celebrity interviews, lots of celebrities were talking about how they hate being famous all the time because they deal with a bunch of hate. So I'm just readjusting this camera. This sun is not doing me any justice whatsoever. So this might look pretty funky when it comes out on YouTube. But basically, these celebrities were saying that they hated being famous all the time because they never got to do anything that they wanted. So they would deal with lots of hate comments, and the biggest thing is going into public and having like a bunch of people surrounding you. They would not they weren't able to live like a normal life where they could just go out and do things without a bunch of people surrounding them. And once I read this and once I saw lots of celebrities talk about this on how they hated being famous, I realized that this also deals with the book. Like you have the problems of being someone average like me, having to work a 9 to 5. There's these problems. You're not financially free. You can't do whatever you want. But when you get to the point when you change, when you change to like this thing, right? This ideal like problem free lifestyle, you don't get to live a problem free life. The problems are upgraded. So now that you've changed, your problem is now it's not money anymore. Now that you're famous, it's not money. It's not the fact that you can't do what you want. You can have that. But now you have to deal with those problems of being famous, dealing with hate comments. You don't have any privacy whatsoever. You cannot go out and just live regular life. So from this book, I realized, and the best thing that I can share with you is that your ideal lifestyle, you're going to experience some problems whatsoever. This job that you want, this you might be in position where you don't have this job, you're experiencing the problems of not having a job. Once you get a job, you are going to experience the negative benefits with the negative problems with the job. And I'm not saying to not improve your life, but no matter what outcome, going from negative to positive or positive to negative, there will always be some problems no matter what. So keep that in mind. The next time there's a problem, the next time you're in a situation where it's just like, there's so many problems with this, I just want to live a problem-free life, you can't. Upgrade yourself. You can upgrade and go to the next point, but realize that there will always be problems no matter what. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.